Well, today is the last Sunday of the season of Epiphany. Ash Wednesday is coming up this week, and the journey of Lent begins. But before we enter into Lent, we have this wonderful gospel. Every year, one of the three synoptic gospel passages is used that describe the Transfiguration. So I've been preaching on this maybe 40 times, and there's so much in it. It is, I've come more and more to look at it from a literary point of view, and seeing this really as the end of Act 1, and what follows is a new direction, a new story, Act 2. Very different from what comes before. And so it fits that it is this liturgical hinge as well as we begin a new kind of practice and discipline and flavor as we get ready to enter into Lent. But I have to say that as I was approaching this passage and this day, this year, a new perspective is emerging that is sort of guiding how I'm looking and thinking about this. And that is the notion of pilgrimage. So I've been thinking about Sebeth, your rector, who is getting ready to go to Spain and will be taking the Camino de Santiago, ending up in Compostela, a classic and traditional pilgrimage route. And it's a kind of thing that one might do on a sabbatical, as she is doing, in order to find renewal and refreshment, perhaps a new perspective, and to take stock. It is a perfect time to both look back and look ahead and to see where one is in this moment. But I think not only of Sebeth, I'm thinking of myself. I've made my travel arrangements. I bought my plane tickets. I'll be going to England in May, and we'll be walking from Stonehenge to Winchester, not necessarily a classic route, but then continuing from Winchester to Canterbury, very much a classic pilgrimage route. Chaucer made famous with the Canterbury Tales. I've never been to Canterbury, so there's a lot of anticipation that I have of what will it be like to arrive, and especially after walking 180 miles. But I also think, as I think of pilgrimage, it's something that's been emerging in me, not just this event coming up in my life, but a practice that I've come to embrace. In particular, I don't know, a couple years ago as I retired, whatever that means in this chapter, this iteration, I'd be wondering what I would do. I'm paying attention to friends of mine that have been going on these pilgrimage journeys and thinking of their walking and insights that they may gain, and finding myself drawn to just walk right now. I have for many months been walking between 30 and 40 miles a week, and try to do so with a little bit of intention and mindfulness and being awake, thinking that even right now I'm on a bit of a pilgrimage. There are some practices that I've come to embrace that are part of my walking. The prayer that I offered at the beginning of this sermon, every time I preach, I've been praying that prayer for 25 years, but I pray that every day, and now on my walks, that is part of where I find myself led to prayer. There's a particular place I like to go. I live in Tacoma, and I go down to the waterfront, and on Schuster Way, there's a nice promenade, if you will. But in the midst of that, there's a bell called a children's bell. But ever since my time in Italy during COVID, and the ringing of bells at noon, and our practice even when I was at St. James Church in Florence, Italy, ringing the bell for 60 seconds, just saying, we are here. You are not alone. Prayers are being raised up. I find myself wanting to ring bells. And so I ring that bell. I say that prayer. And then I do another practice. I find myself facing to the west and thinking of to the east. Facing west, I was correct. Facing the west and thinking of all that has happened, every step in my life. There's in fact, there's a passage written in Italian in a stone on the pavement in front of Santa Maria Novella Church in Florence that says in English, "Every step I have taken in my life has led me here now." And I just think of that. Every step I have taken in my life has led me here now, right here, right now. Is the divine moment, is the precious moment. I face the West. I think of all that has come in my life, everything that has happened to me. I face the North, and I think of everything that I'm called upon to let go of. I yield all. There are skills and abilities and practices and achievements that I've had in my life, but I let go of them. I empty myself. Then I turn to the east and I see ask for grace on what is to come, the new day, the next year, the rest of my life. God, grant me the grace to be present and accept what it is that I'm called upon to do in each moment. And then I turn to the south, to me thinking of things emerging and growing. And I think of what is new in my life, what new thing, how am I a beginner? And even the dark guest, the difficult thing that I may have to embrace. Lord, what is it that I am receiving in this moment? I look up to the heavens. I think of myself as just a speck in an infinite universe that has gone on for innumerable years. And yet, then I look down and I think maybe other people have been here before, but I am here now. This moment I am here. And then I continue my walk and try to be open. So hopefully on a sabbatical, that's something of how I will walk when I'm in England. And perhaps Sabbath will find a meaningful way to be awake and attentive as she is on her sabbatical. I hope you pray for her and think of her during this time. But for all of us, we are on a journey. We are going someplace. And then into the midst of that journey, then maybe transfiguration might happen. The divine encounter, the point at which a new revelation is there. There's a number of things that sort of come to mind as I think of this. First of all, there is the transfiguration, this sense of Jesus being utterly transformed and made new, dazzling white in the divine presence in him. There is in the Celtic spiritual tradition this notion of the thin place, that as J.P. Newell says, when the membrane between heaven and earth is particularly thin, when we are aware of that we're in the presence of the divine. Hopefully you've had moments where you've experienced a thin place, that sense of deep connection, of awareness. Thomas Merton famously describes an occasion where he had an encounter of a thin place. In his book, conjectures of a guilty bystander, he talks about this experience where, I quote, "In Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed by the realization that I loved all those people, that they were mine, and I was theirs." He goes on to say, "Then it was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, the depths of their hearts where neither sin nor desire nor self-knowledge can reach, the core of their reality, the person that each was in God's eyes." And kind of echoing that experience that Jesus had on the mountain when the voice spoke, "You are my beloved, with you I am well pleased." That sense of being loved and seen is present in the core of our being. Now, I'd have to, as I think of my life in the church, my life as a person seeking grace and God, really as a teenager, there was it became very urgent for me, and I found myself wanting very much to have that sense of being beloved and seen, and had some moments of that, and yet there was a lot of shame in my life, and kept finding if I could be in that place and drawn to church in somewhat to have that experience, or in prayer. The danger is, of course, is that it doesn't happen all the time. We don't always feel ourselves in those thin places, even in church. And that's certainly been my story. So it's perhaps easy to feel a bit of a failure. But the thing that Merton might remind us of is that it comes to us unbidden. It comes to us where we are. I've been reading, again, Annie Dillard's book, now 50 years old, A Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, where she describes just going out from her backyard into nature and seeing praying mantises or snakes or muskrats, or the change of the seasons, and just being aware of the grace and the holiness that's just in nature. So part of pilgrimage perhaps is walking with the intention that God is right here and right now if I have the eyes to see. And maybe those thin places will come, but maybe it's also that it's something to discover inside. Another thought that I have as I think of pilgrimage is the companions, is the people that share the journey with me. I'm fascinated. Now I'm from the mountains of Colorado, grew up in western Colorado. The idea of being on mountains is appealing and a little bit terrifying. And I think of this as being an experience of Jesus climbing a mountain and finding, as he's at the top of the mountain, two other mountain climbers, Elijah and Moses. Moses famous for climbing Mount Sinai, as we heard in our first lesson from Exodus. And there Moses had a profound theophany, an experience of being in the presence of God, and that Moses himself was changed. But Moses then, because of that experience, was given a gift of the law and came down and through the law was able to show God's people how they were in a deeper and more full relationship with God. And then Elijah, who on Mount Horeb went up and discovered that God was not in the earthquake, and God was not in the fire, and God was not in the tempest, but God was in the sound of sheer silence, the still small voice. And that Elijah then symbolizes for us being given the gift of prophecy, the ability to speak truth to power, the ability to imagine a just society. And there Moses and Elijah meet with Jesus, the mountaineers on the top of this mountain, talking about the expeditions and the effort and the insights and the glory that comes through this experience of being on the mountain. And Peter and the others exclaiming, well, how good it is for us to be here, because we can build 3 bivouacs, 3 shelters that we can stay on this mountain. But it becomes apparent that in fact there is yet one more mountain that Jesus is to climb. This mountain of the Transfiguration is what mountaineers might call a false summit. One more mountain in view now is Golgotha. And Jesus must make that route alone. There is no pioneer who has gone before. Jesus must find this new route up this new mountain, Golgotha. But in doing so, showing us the way to follow. And so I would say, what might you take away from this day, this moment, this point in your journey, that you too are on a pilgrimage, and that as you move along, may you have grace and eyes to see and be open to what is, that God is already there. But maybe in order to continue the journey, to follow Jesus more is asked of us. I was with a woman recently who had a spinal cord injury, a vital woman in her 40s, maybe 50, who has done wonderful adventures, and yet is facing the prospect of perhaps not even walking again. And yet this is a person who, in this moment, I'm able to see in her a deep sense of grace. She assures us that spiritually and emotionally, she's just fine. God, who has been with her, is with her, and will be with her. And yet she looks at this moment in her life as the beginning of a new pilgrimage. And that she said, as I was with her, on a pilgrimage, there should be a cost. And I think that cost of letting go of our self, of our ego, in order for the new thing to emerge, may be what is called for us. And so I would invite you even more as we enter into Lent. What might it look like to be letting go in order that we may undertake the rest of this journey that Jesus has led us on, that we may be with him not only at Golgotha, but then also as part of the empty tomb, that we might share with Christ the fullness of his journey and experience then the fullness of this transfiguration. Let us take a moment, being grateful and mindful of where we are in this moment, that every step we have taken has led us to this spot, to right here, right now. But grace is needed for us to continue. Would you repeat these words from Psalm 46? Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be still. Be.